What was your creepy unexplained experience as a child? 1. Haven't told this one in a while. I was young, 5, 7, somewhere in there. I was sleeping in between my parents for whatever reason. I woke up, I remember the clock reading around 4 a.m. There was something standing by the window, looking out into the front yard. It looked like a man in a brown wool robe, about 6 or 4 inches or so. I started to stir and sat up in bed, and the thing turned and looked at me. Dear God, that face. Extremely pale white skin. Lots of really pronounced wrinkles, and the face drooped like it was melting, down into a really pointy chin, almost similar to a scream mask but with all of the features of a living being. Its mouth was hanging open and its eyes were wide, almost like it was worried or frightened. It kept its gaze on me while it moved away from the window, in front of the bed and out the open bedroom door. The second it exited the room, the lights turned on their own and both of my parents jumped up on either side of me, breathing heavily like they'd both just woken up from a nightmare. To be clear, I was fully able to move during this. I don't think it was sleep paralysis, but I'm not sure what it could have been other than some kind of demon or really fucking ugly ghost. I've never seen it since, but I can still picture it clear as day. 2. I was out at our cabin in the remote mountainous wilderness of Colorado with my dad and had to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. This necessitated a flashlight and shoes, because the outhouse was far away. There was no one but me and my dad for miles in any direction. So I thought. I suddenly heard voices in the distance and stopped in my tracks. It seemed to be coming from my right, deep in the woods in the middle of nowhere, a quarter of a mile from the road. Being 11 and unafraid of the world, I foolishly yelled, "Who's out there?" There was silence for a few seconds, then a shouted string of profanity so vulgar it terrified my virgin ears. I stood stock still for a moment like a terrified rabbit but heard nothing else, so I ran back to the house and woke my dad up. He got up, loaded his gun and turned all the lights on, but we never heard another sound. To this day, we have not seen or heard another person within 15 miles of the cabin. 3. I was about 7 and my brother was 13 and we still shared a room. I was always afraid of the dark when I was a kid. Periodically I would wake up in the night and call for mom to come and turn on the hall light to be used as a nightlight. Much to the enjoyment of my brother. One night in the middle of winter I woke up and right before I called out for mom I noticed there was a man on the deck that was on the other side of the wall from our bedroom. I froze. I was totally freaked and tried to scream, but I could only make this high-pitched squeaking sound. The only thing I could do was cry. After what seemed like hours my dad heard me and came in to see what was wrong. The man was gone of course when I told him and he blew it off as a nightmare until my brother, from under his covers, said that he saw it too. With that my dad went outside with a shotgun. There were footprints in the snow outside our window and the window of my parents' bedroom. That one took a while to recover from. 4. I grew up in rural Scotland in the 80s and 90s. Think 50 kids total in my entire primary school, rural. There were only 4 kids in my year, one being me, so only 3 classmates. I was told that before we moved into the house I grew up in, the previous owner died of old age in our living room and they lived in my bedroom before that. There was some kind of raised wooden floor built for them to die on with a bed that was taken out when we got there. 2 spooky for me events as follows. I don't remember this but my mom claims she couldn't find me when I was a toddler and later found me in a closed drawer in my room. No idea how I got in there and no idea how it was closed. I have a distant memory of seeing a dog-like ghost running in place in broad daylight in our living room. Mom had me hide behind the couch with her suddenly because the coal man was here to collect money we owed him. We were extremely poor and had a coal fire to keep us warm in winter, but I didn't know why we were hiding at first. I peeked into the living room from behind the couch and saw what was like a standing shadow, but it was made of light running on the spot in front of the fireplace. It was like a dog running really quickly, but it was running in place and suddenly switching side to side every few seconds like it's glitching out. I thought that was why Mom had made me hide behind the couch. I got scared and went and stopped looking into the living room, hiding behind the couch fully again. It stuck with me as a WTF was that I saw a moment, but seeing as I was barely primary school age back then I can't really give it any real weight as paranormal evidence to myself. My room had a lot of things fall over in it that shouldn't and never with anyone there to do it. Every now and then we'd hear a loud bang come from my upstairs room while we were all downstairs and something had fallen over. Usually small things like books, games etc., but I had a mirror smash from falling on the floor. The worst was my entire wardrobe fell over and broke my bed. The wardrobe was really big and heavy and shouldn't have been able to fall forward on its own like that. Scared the shit out of us all from the boom alone. Thought we had a robber up there. A few family members told me they thought I was in my room and were surprised to see I wasn't because they saw my door in the later stage of closing as they went by, as though someone had gone in there and had been closing the door behind them, and a family member saw the last seconds of the door moving to a close. I never witnessed this, but it was unsettling to hear about. I remember that when us kids were left in the house alone, which happened fairly often, we'd hear very audible footsteps and banging coming from the rooms upstairs, but it usually came from my bedroom. I had sleep paralysis a lot when I lived there. I'd scream really loud and freak everyone out. Typical sleep paralysis episodes. I think I'm awake but I can't move and it's like something evil is in the room with me with the intent to kill me and I have to fight it off or I'll die type feeling. If you've never had one, feel lucky, they fucking suck. If I went into detail over what I saw and felt during sleep paralysis, this post would be a lot bigger, so I don't want to. Every now and then a really loud bang would wake me up. As though someone had wrapped their knuckles on something wooden near my head with a lot of force. This has followed me everywhere since but doesn't happen as often. I think it's exploding head syndrome, but it's still not a nice way to wake up. Bonus 3, Spooky 5 Me. My stepdad and mom both had the same dream that they were abducted by a UFO. My stepdad was telling my mom about this crazy dream he had that a UFO came and the roof went see-through and he was taken aboard. Mom went pale and said she had the same dream. My younger sisters shared a room and were both freaked out and said that they'd woken up to their blankets on the floor and thought it was ghosts. I didn't have a UFO dream or wake up with my blankets off of me, so I guess my haunted bedroom saved me there. Super bonus story, when I was a young teen I was at this tiny river beach with a good friend of mine late at night, drinking by a little campfire we made because it's Scotland and that's what we do. We were waiting on another friend coming. We were having a laugh talking about shit when we hear these very heavy footsteps come towards us. Cool, we thought, it's the friend we're waiting on but he never appears. We think he's fucking with us so we call out his name but no answer. We get up and wander out into the darkness and can't see anyone. Literally seconds have passed, no way in hell anyone was right there then left in that time without us hearing or seeing them. We still think our friend is fucking with us and we decide that he must be hiding a bit further down the trail to get to the river. We actually walked all the way back to the start of the trail a good quarter-mile back from the river where we meet our friend now only just arriving on his pushbike with no clue what we're on about when we tell him that was a good joke. I'd swear blind someone was right next to us. We both heard it. Doesn't help that the section of the river we were drinking on has stupid Scottish folk legends about a stupid ghost who haunts it because they drowned. I don't believe the ghost story but do personally know of people who have actually drowned in the river. I left home a long time ago now and things like that don't happen anymore except for still having sleep paralysis episodes and a loud bang waking me up from time to time but by far less than when I lived at home. Surprisingly, I'm actually fairly skeptical about the paranormal. It does interest me but I think that most things can be explained rationally. 5. Because that post is already too long. Us school kids were close because there weren't that many of us. We'd all play outside together and I lived next door to 2 of the 3 other kids in my year. I remember talking about ghosts and it devolved into one of those, my dad is stronger than your dad kind of arguments but over who saw the most legit ghost stuff. They told me that one night they saw a big glowing ball of light moving around in the large field on the other side of our house. It was a big bluish purple ball that lit up a small area around it and it floated for a while with no real direction until it just disappeared suddenly. It scared us all because we didn't know what the hell it could have been. More recently but still relevant, I caught up with an old friend of mine from back then. We were very close and always played together. Even hung out as teens and beyond, same friend as the one who was drinking with me by the river. He told me that he was jogging out in the woods at night because he's a bit of a musclehead and wants to be super fit. He said he saw a load of little strobing, blinking lights a little ways off the path in the woods and he was too scared to go see what it was and just turned around and ran back home. I would have thought he would have been the first guy in the world to run up and see what it was because he's all about being macho and brave. If it freaked him out enough to run away, I know I wouldn't have stayed behind. We used to walk back from the neighboring but slightly bigger and therefore way cooler village late at night to go drinking in with friends. None of us were old enough to drive and public transportation stopped hours before we were ready to go home, so the only option was to walk 5 miles through the woods in the dark. Yeah, we really should have maybe not done that thinking back on it. One night when I wasn't there, thankfully, a few of my friends were very near to our village but still in the woods, walking back from a party in the other village. They said that they saw and heard something very large barrel through the woods and run by them from one side of the woods to the other, crossing the trail. Too large to be the tiny deer we have in Scotland, and we haven't had bears for a very long time. It spooked them badly and we all agreed not to stay at the other village so late for a while. I have walked those 5 miles with nothing but moonlight to light my way before, so that really spooked me too because I'd never seen anything out there ever, but it gave me the fear of what if.
Thanks for watching. If you got this far, leave a comment, like if you liked it, and follow for more.